Ilakshi, over to you.
Perfect. Hey everyone, bonjour. Perfect. I believe everybody just received the link for this session. I'd request everyone to please start turning on the cameras. It helps me keep a tab on who all are joining in. But welcome, bienvenue, welcome everyone for this session today. I'm glad that everyone could make it. And everyone was waiting for the links. I'm glad everybody could join in, and I know that a lot of people in the waiting who are joining in as well. So we'll just wait for a couple of minutes and let everybody connect. And I can't wait to start this session with you guys. I'm pretty excited. Once again, guys, please start turning on your cameras. It's really, really important for us today that we make this session extremely interactive and as successful as possible, and cannot be done until unless we see each other. So please try to turn on your cameras. It's going to be great. Um, okay, we have a few more people joining in, so let's just take a couple of minutes before I begin. All right. Okay. All right. Once again, guys, as in when you're joining in and you're settling in, please just keep turning on your cameras. I'm really looking forward to starting this session and in greeting all of you, and I can see your faces. That would be really nice. Okay, okay, okay. It's working. Perfect. I'm just letting a few more people in. I think that's great. Perfect. Okay, lovely. Great. Okay, guys, we still have a couple of people joining in. I'm just waiting for everybody to connect, but welcome everyone who've been able to join in. I see a lot of familiar faces that I usually do. So that's great. Welcome back. And those of you who are joining in for the first time, welcome to our session today. These are the Sunday sessions that we do usually. To help you guys navigate through a few things for your TEF and TCF examination and your journey through the French language that's going to make your process even more easier and potentially help you progress better apart from the daily sessions that you've been doing and apart from the journey that you've already embarked upon for the language. Now I'm sure that all of you are either in your A1, A2, B1, even some B2 levels. So this session has something for each and every one of you, no matter what level you are. So we're gonna kickstart this session today with the same spirit when everybody can be involved. Alors, d'atelier spécial consacré aux questions en français sur l'interrogation in French. Alors, aujourd'hui, on va commencer très simple. We're gonna start with something very simple. Simple. Everyone, écrivez dans la chat, okay? Everybody on the chat, I want you to write un mot, one word. Ok, comment ça va aujourd'hui? Bien, fatigué, motivé, stressé, whatever your response is, okay? Alors, comment ça va aujourd'hui? I want everyone to write one word, un mot, sur le chat, s'il vous plaît. Everyone. C'est très simple. Comment ça va aujourd'hui? That's all I want to know. One word, everyone. Come on, I have fatigué, okay? I have content, bien, very nice, okay? Everyone, come on, we're a lot of us today. Keep let's keep interacting. Come on. Fatigué, guys. How's everyone so tired today? Come on. All right. What else? Everybody, come on. I would love if you guys could just respond on the chat. That's great. Content, fatigué, d'accord. Ça va bien. OK, bien. Alors, y a-t-il des autres qui veulent répondre aussi? Are there others who would like to respond and put their words in the chat? Could be anything. Oh, no, you. Okay. All right. Probably we'll be able to change that today after this 1 hour session or during this 1 hour session, actually. Let's try to hopefully change that. Okay. What else? Keep them coming in, guys. Let's keep more words coming in. Don't you? Okay. D'accord. Okay. Super. On a quelques termes. We have some words today. But that's great, actually. Okay. Vous voyez quelque chose. You guys see something. Une seule petite question. One very small question. Il suffit pour démarrer une conversation. Is just sufficient to start a conversation. Et c'est exactement notre thème aujourd'hui. And that's exactly what our theme is today, okay? Comment poser les bonnes questions en français? Parce que dans l'examen de TEF, TCF, TEFAT, elles sont partout et tous les niveaux. A1, A2, B1, B2 et plus. Okay, so today's session is exactly around the same theme of how to pose questions, good questions in French, because in the exams of TEF, TCF, TEFAC, they're everywhere. Ils sont partout. And all the levels, okay? A1, A2, B1, B2, and so on and so forth. So our agenda today is around the same theme, okay? We're going to be tackling a few things like pourquoi les questions sont si importantes dans le TEF et TCF, why are questions and question making so important in TEF and TCF, les différents types de questions, the different types of questions, les erreurs les plus fréquentes à éviter, very common errors that we can avoid. On va aussi faire une petite exercice ensemble. We're going to do a small exercise together in the end pour créer et répondre, to create, to reply to questions, okay? Et voilà, le but de cet atelier est très clair. The objective of this particular workshop is very, very clear, okay? Je vais vous donner des outils simples. I'm going to give you some very, very helpful tips and tools pour construire des questions, to construct questions qui sont correctes, variées et naturelles, okay? Which are going to be correct, different, dynamic, varied, and natural, okay? Donc, après cet atelier, after this workshop, vous saurez mieux utiliser les questions pour communiquer et réussir votre examen de TEF et TCF. Okay, I hope that after this particular workshop today, you'd know a little bit more on how to use questions, how to communicate better to succeed in the examination of TEF and TCF. Okay, so I hope that our agenda for today is clear and we're all set and ready for today. Okay, all right, superb. One request for everybody. It would be great if all of you could just probably keep a pen, a paper, or a notebook with you in your hand, just to scribble something that you like. Of course, this session is going to be live on YouTube and you're going to be able to find it later on as well. But sometimes it's just great to have something to scribble down on, even if it's just some questions we'd want to pose. So everybody, I know for those who are tired and who've had a long day, guys, let's make this 1 hour as energetic and as interactive as possible. So let's get settled in. Everybody, while I share my screen, I want everybody to please make sure they keep a pen, a notebook, something in their hand to scribble around. And we can quickly begin, okay? So allow me a minute. I'm going to share my screen, and meanwhile, you guys can all get settled in, okay? Superb. Okay. All right, guys. Just 1 second. It's just taking a little bit longer than I thought, but I think we should be ready in a couple of minutes. I think we should be there. Sorry, guys. I think this is taking a little bit longer to open, but I don't know. Anyway, I have it with me in front of me. I think let's work around here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Just let me know if you can see it. If yes, everybody, you know the drill. Just put a thumbs up on the chat. If you guys can see my screen. If it's visible, great, perfect. Just let me know you can see it. Perfect. Superb. All right, guys. I believe that a lot of you can see my screen. I think that now everybody can see my screen actually, so that's great. Okay. All right. So today's session, which is around question making, like I said, we'd be looking at it from a lot of angles here. Looking at the fact that why question making is relevant both for our listening and speaking examination. For the And it goes without saying actually. Listening, why is that important? Because whatever you're listening to, there are questions based on it. So as much as it is important for us to understand the audio, it is useless unless we understand the question that is posed to us. Okay. So with respect to our listening or reading, it's very important for us to understand the questions. With respect to speaking, why is it very, very important as well? Is because in both the examinations, TEF and TCF, question making is a very, very important element. There is a section individually based in both TEF and TCF centered around question making. I'm sure those of you who are already in your B1 and B2 levels, you guys would be aware of the format. And those students who just started their journey and are just familiarizing themselves with question making, interrogation, this is an indication for you to understand how important this is. Also, when we talk about grammar, it plays a very, very important role in question making. It shows how using the correct question structure shows control over our verb conjugations, inversions, and question words, interrogative adverbs. Extremely essential for our communication. And most importantly, because it's a very, very important part of the examination, both TEF and TCF, posing the correct kind of questions, knowing how to frame the questions, present the questions, speak fluently with the kind of sound required can overall improve our score. So today, not only are we going to focus on how to make the questions, because I know you're already learning that, we're going to see how we should present those questions, how our conversation needs to flow. Okay? All right. A quick recap, firstly, on the question types. I'm sure that most of you already know these question types, so it's going to be like a quick revision on that. The first question type is our intonation, which is actually a very informal way of asking questions, very, very spoken in an everyday term, but not very relevant with your exam point of view. However, just to explain it to you, intonation is nothing but a change in your voice. Okay, so if I just say, do you like to study? Do you like chocolates? Do you like to watch television? This is nothing but it's an affirmative question, but I've just raised my voice. You like chocolates? Do you like books? Do you like to travel? Now, what is this? I'm just increasing the tone of my voice and making it sound like a question, and that's intonation. So, tu aimes le chocolat? Il est à la maison. If the question marks were not there, essentially these are just affirmative sentences, right? So intonation is nothing but you putting a question mark in the end and in your head making a sound like it. So just raising your voice. That's intonation. Mind it, everyone, we do not use this particular type of question framing in the examination. Understand? Very easy. There's no skill you've put into it. There's no formal examination structure. It's just for an everyday conversation that's important. Okay. The second type, however, the Est format. It's very common, it's very widely used, and it's a neutral structure. Okay, which means it can be used in informal as well as formal conversations in the exam as well. Okay. Est-ce literally means is it that? It is used to ask yes and no questions, which means closed ended questions, It's a very polite way for beginners at least to start off framing questions. And all you got to do is you got to put est-ce que followed by your affirmative sentence. So, est-ce que tu parles français? Which becomes, do you speak French? And literally, it means, is it that you speak French? So, in your head, imagine the response you would want to give is yes, no, of course. That's the kind of response that comes. Hence, it's called a closed-ended question. So, est-ce que tu parles français? Oui, je parle français. Or, non, je ne parle pas français. Or, est-ce qu'elle travaille ici? Oui, elle travaille ici. Or, no, elle ne travaille pas ici. What are we doing? All your ESC questions will have two possible type of responses, which is yes and no. Okay? The third type of question that we have, so you just figured intonation, ESC. The third type that we have is inversion, a very popular French grammatical concept of framing questions, widely used for formal speaking as well as written in advanced context. The structure for which is very simple. You have your affirmative sentence, which is with your subject and the verb. All you got to do is you got to invert or split, switch rather, swap the position of the subject and the verb. Okay? This is the concept which is widely used for formal speaking, informal speaking as well, why not, as well as written. So something like, passes-tu anglais? Où vas-tu? Aime-t-il la musique? What is happening here? You're just switching the position of your subject and your verb. When you do that, it becomes inversion and it's roughly translated as, do you speak French? Do you speak English? Where are you going? Okay? The fourth type, this is where you ask questions that are called open-ended questions, which mean there could be any possibility of answers. Okay, you can combine question words with various other question forms to get a specific piece of information from the person you're asking. So, for example, we have some most common words like qui, which means who. So, for example, qui a sonné à la porte ce matin? Who rang the doorbell ce matin, this morning? So, who rang or who rang at the door this morning? Quoi, which means what, which is either used in the beginning of the sentence or towards the end of the sentence. Tu fais quoi? What are you doing? But mind it, it's very informal. We have the term quand. Everybody. Nobody says quoi. Nobody says any of the pronunciation other than quand. Quand est ton prochain cours de français? When is your next class of French? The word où, which means where. Everybody notice that there's an accent grave on the U. This is very important because without it, the word in itself would mean or. Okay, so où se trouve la Tour Eiffel à Paris? Where is the Eiffel Tower in Paris? The word pourquoi, which means why. Understand one thing. Every time somebody asks you a question in why or pourquoi, your response has to be because. Okay, just a validation on how it goes. All right, so pourquoi n'es-tu pas venu à la réunion hier? Why didn't you come yesterday for the meeting? Comment, which means how, basically asking for description. Comment puis-je t'aider avec ce projet? How can I help you with this project? Combien, again, a very common one, which means how much or how many, when we're asking about the quantity. So, combien de livres as-tu lu? Mois, 6 mois ou mois-ci. How many books have you read this month? Okay. Now, do you see the way when we're talking, sometimes we end up using a lot of fillers in English as well. How do I say this? You know, these kind of terminologies that we use, this is the transition that I use between my conversations, my sentences, my questions. And this is very common when you speak any language. And we're very familiar with this in English as well. So is the case in French, guys. We call them fillers. These are very, very useful and they help us to sound very natural. They also help us to gain time, which is the second benefit of it. So when we're transitioning from one sentence to the other and we're navigating through our trail of thought, we can use some of these fillers to sound more natural and to gain time. So something like bah alors, bah oui, bah non, tu vois, enfin, quoi, voilà, oui, attends, eh bien, bon, c'est vrai. These are some very basic fillers for you to put in your sentences when you're thinking of how to start your next sentence or how to begin that. Or some very neutral and formal ones, things like en fait, oui, tout à fait, c'est vrai, hein, je comprends. Oui, je vois, c'est super, hein. C'est intéressant, oui. Écoutez, vous voyez, voyons. Now, these are what is this happening? You're just using these terms to bring a bridge between your ideations, your thoughts, and whatever you want to say next. These help you gain time, believe me, they do, and they help you sound very, very natural and less robotic. Let's just put it like that. So these are the list of very important fillers that you can use while transitioning in your trail of thoughts, whether it's questions, whether it's dialogue, whether it's expressions, whether it's expressing yourself. Okay. Now, let's look at how the question starters differentiate or are different, sorry, rather, every level. Okay. For example, when I say question starters, they mean when we start asking a question. Now, question framing is the same. We have the usual est-ce, we have the usual inversion, we have the usual interrogative adverb. Now, this remains common throughout the language, but how do we set these basic questions apart as a student? It's the way you start these questions most of the times. So, let's say an A2 level speaker or a basic everyday user would probably say things like, alors, dis-moi, tu parles français? Or, comment trouves-tu, whatever you want to say ahead. Oh, qu'est-ce que tu penses de la langue française? So these are just a few sentence starters that an A2 level student may choose to use right before starting a question. Okay? Whereas once you transition to a B1 level, your sentence starters can get modified while your question remains the same. So here we said, dis-moi, parles-tu français? And here, je voudrais savoir si tu parles français. Now, what has happened? I would like to know if je voudrais, its conditional tense is more polite and it immediately bumps up your level from an A2 or to a B1 level. Or something like, est-ce que tu pourrais me dire si tu parles français? Is it that you could tell me if you speak French? Again, we've used conditional tense to make it more polite and to bump up your level from A2 to B1. Now, technically, the question you're asking is still the same if you speak French. Beginning of the questions, which can be very helpful. Okay. Now, let's transition to a B2 level. Pourrais-je savoir? Que pensez-vous de? Qu'est-ce qui t'intéresse dans, and whatever you want to continue.
Guys, just checking my network. We all are here, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the lab had a problem.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I think there is some technical issue here. Just give me a minute. I'm coordinating with Ilakshi and she's joining us. She's joining again.
Sure, ma'am.
Let me just see if she's around. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I think we had a technical issue because of which I got dropped from the call. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, but I hope everybody's stuck with me here. Um, Sorry guys, technical issues keep happening now here and there, but I hope we're all together. And we're all intact. Perfect. Superb. Okay, coming back to where we were. Voila. All right, guys. Nobody loses their flow. Okay, let's get back to this. So we just recently saw how even though the questions remain the same, which is parles-tu français or tu parles français, even if I just change the beginning of my questions, the sentence or the question starters, it greatly impacts my level of the language. So if I say dis-moi si tu parles français is very A2 level. The same thing if I say je voudrais savoir si tu parles français, that is immediately B1 level. If I want to go towards a B2 level, which is another higher level, we say pourrais-je savoir si vous parlez français. So we can modify our level or increase our level by just changing and modifying the sentence starters as well, whilst our questions still remain the same. That is one trick that you all can adopt eventually, or some places that you can to bump up your level. Okay, everybody on the chat, please tell me if we understand why these question starters at each level are important, along with why the usefulness of fillers is justified. If you agree with both these things, please give me a thumbs up on the chat so I know we're all on the same page. We all understand the concept of where we are today. Everybody. All right, perfect. Thank you, Rino. Y a-t-il des autres aussi? Are there others? Auntie wants to know in the exam, should we always use the formal fillers? Auntie, that actually depends. I'll tell you why. in your TEF examination, your section A, which is completely based on question making, that is a formal conversation that you have. There, I would recommend try to use as many formal fillers as possible. Whilst a mix of some informal ones, that's okay. In the TCF examination, your tâche de, your second task is speaking, that is entirely based on question making, but the situations given in that examination can be formal or informal. But to answer your questions, you can just as easily use a mix of both. Because both of them, they end up solving one simple purpose for you. That is to create a bridge in your sentences and trail of thoughts. So think of it as not formal or informal. Think of them collectively as fillers. And you can use either and or. Whether it's a formal or an informal conversation, that's okay. All right? That's perfectly fine. Super. Perfect, guys. I'm glad that we're all catching up. So just to recap, fillers are extremely important so that when you're transitioning, you can just put up these words in the middle that gives you time to think. And also, they are very, very natural for speakers. Second, whilst your questions still remain inversion and intonation and those kind of questions remain the same, or Est-ce, whatever question types we've learned, in fact, so far, by just changing or adding or modifying the sentence starters, it can greatly impact our level of the language to showcase whether it were A2, B1, or B2 level. So adopting a few of these will really help you change the style of your speaking. Okay? All right. Moving forward, how else can we upgrade a simple question from A1 or an A2 to a B1 or a B2 level? Everybody, let's look at this way. An A2 level question would be, for example, tu sais où est la gare? You know where is the station? Tu sais où est la gare? So here, what have we done? We've used the interrogative term où. We've put a question mark, of course, because as interrogative adverb, we've put a question mark in the end as an interrogation, and we've changed the tone of voice at the same time. So tu sais où est la gare? However, in a B1 level, we've modified it just a little bit and elongated just a little bit, and we added conditional over there. So, est-ce que tu pourrais me dire où est la gare? Is it that you could tell me where is the station? Or very simply put, do you know, can you tell me where would the station be? Or where is the station? So, est-ce que tu pourrais me dire où est la gare? Notice, here also I was using où est la gare. Here as well, I have où est la gare. It's the sentence starter that has changed and has helped me jump from A2 to B1. Now let's see how will that differentiate to a B2 level. Pourriez-vous m'indiquer où se trouve la gare, s'il vous plaît? Pourriez-vous, conditional we're using here, could you m'indiquer où se trouve la gare? Where can one find the station? Please. Do you see how the same question of asking where is the station differentiates from A2, B1, and B2 level? Let's try to look at a couple of more examples. If I say, for example, tu as l'heure, you have time? Do you have some time? Do you have time? A B1 question would be, est-ce que tu pourrais me dire l'heure, s'il te plaît? Could you tell me the time, please? So, est-ce que tu pourrais me dire is a very, very simple way to start a question, but yet make it a little bit better than A2 level, to be very honest. Whilst a B2 level question would probably be something like, auriez-vous, auriez-vous, again, we're using conditional here, l'embalité de m'indiquer l'heure exacte, s'il vous plaît. Would you be kind enough to tell me the exact time, please? Avez-vous du pain? Do you have some bread? Versus, est-ce que vous pourriez me dire si vous avez du pain aujourd'hui? Is it that you could tell me, or can you tell me, si vous avez du pain aujourd'hui, is it that you have some bread today? As simple as adding, est-ce que vous pourriez me dire? Followed by which, let's look at a B2 level question of the same thing. Pourriez-vous m'indiquer, s'il vous plaît, quel type de pain est disponible aujourd'hui? Could you, pourriez-vous, now again we're starting with conditional, we're using please, s'il vous plaît. Now we've used interrogative term here. Quel type de pain, what type of bread est disponible is available today. Everybody just glance at the screen and see it's the same question. We've just changed the sentence starters, added, removed, modified it, and it's still the same intent of the question. Yeah. Moving ahead, let's look at some progression. Okay, question words progression. So we saw the word qui. Qui est is who is it? Avec qui tu pars en vacances? So we use the preposition avec. Qui est responsable de ce projet selon vous? How we've been able to use the term qui at different levels. Que ou quoi, both of which means what. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What is it that you do? So what do you do? Que pensez-vous de cette idée? What do you think of this idea? The term where, où est la gare? Où est-ce que tu habites? Où souhaiteriez-vous travailler plus tard? With each question type, your sound automatically, the intent probably remains the same. The question type keeps changing, but you know how you add and remove some things is what really makes a lot of difference. Okay, we have terms like combien. Combien ça coûte is very, very A2 level. Combien d'amis as-tu? Combien de temps faudrait-il pour résoudre ce problème? We've put in different tenses there, which automatically modifies. So this was just to show you how using interrogative terms with different tenses in your question making can modify your A2, B1, and B2 level questions. Let's take it a little bit ahead and see how to put our questions in the right sequence. Okay. Now, I want all of you to take a moment and let's just discuss this for a second, okay? A lot of you who already know about the TEF or the TCF examination would know that it's a dialogue, it's a role play that you do. Whether it's the TEF or the TCF examination, the tasks in which you have to pose questions, okay, you have to ask questions, are both role plays. In section A, which is in the TEF examination, you do a role play with the examiner who plays the role of an XYZ person to whom you call to ask some questions on the basis of an advertisement or a publicité that you've seen. So it's a role play conversation that you're doing. On the other hand, in TCF examination, there's a question given to you, which could be a formal situation or an informal situation. Either way, you do a role play with the person who's the examiner, who could be playing the role of your friend, could be playing the role of your colleague, could be playing a role of your teacher, could be anybody, depending on the situation. So it's a role play that you do. Since it's a role play, it's a conversation that goes on for a couple of minutes, and it's important that we arrange our questions, our thoughts, our conversation in a manner which is very, very clear. And one way to do that is to use connectors. Firstly, secondly, after that, lastly, in the end, these are all different types of connectors. Using them not only helps you in everything that I just discussed, but is also evaluated, guys. You've scored on the kind of connectors you've used, the number of connectors you use. So it's extremely very important that you forcibly use them. So something as simple as tout d'abord, or even premièrement, or ensuite, oui, which means next or then. De plus, en plus, enfin, finalement. These are all sequencings or connectors that are very important and in fact obligatory for you to use. Okay, there are the score associated to it. They fetch you better scores. They give a better structure to your whole dialogue. So very, very important to use it there. Along with which, what's very important to use are some contrasting connectors. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, let's put it with respect to your TCF examination section 1, which is basically when you present yourself. A lot of times you'll see that the examiner would want to ask you some questions on the basis of what you've presented. Now, if let's say they ask you, okay, you talked about your family, can you describe your family a little bit to us? And you have to describe your family. Let's say they said, okay, you say you live in Canada. Can you tell me what do you like about Canada? Or why do you live in Canada? All right, there can be any question that can come up. Now, what happens is you cannot give one-line answer or one-word answer. You should not do it, to be very honest. The examiners actually reward those candidates who don't give a very short one liner, one word, or a black and white answer. Use contrasting connectors to show a deeper analysis and deeper thinking. Okay? So things like mais, cependant, toutefois, par contre, pourtant. These are very important connectors that you can use to present your answers. Let me help you guys understand it in a way. Those of you who've taken, let's say, the IELTS examination. Now, this is again with personal experience that I'm saying. You guys must have noticed that in the speaking for IELTS exam also, you also, whenever you see resources, videos online, you often see that it's recommended that whenever questions are asked you in the IELTS examination, try to give elaborate answers. If they ask beautiful city, I live on the outskirts, is a buzzing city. Why do we do that then? Because these kind of answers are um, very well received, very well rewarded by the examiners. And such is the case with the TCF examination as well. So try that whenever you're giving an answer, it's not just a one word or a short answer. You're using connectors such as mais, cependant, toutefois, par contre, pourtant to give a deeper exam answer to it. Also, try to justify everything that you say. This increases the length of your answer, okay? So if you say you're talking about, let's say that you love living in Canada. Oui, je vis à ce moment, je vis au Canada et j'adore ça parce que. Instead of just stopping at I love it, describe it. Why? Justify your answer. Give more information. En fait, add a conclusion to it. These are very important because this will avoid you giving one word answers and will help you expand on your answers in your speaking. This will then show the examiner that you're trying to explain more. That means you're able to navigate and think deeper. All right. So these are three elements extremely important when you're sequencing your answers to questions that you're framing in the dialogue or to the answers that you're giving. Okay. Next, whenever you're trying to give an opinion, use terminologies like à mon avis, selon moi, d'après moi, personnellement, je pense que, je trouve que, il me semble que, by. Because in your oral tasks specifically, whether it's TEF or TCF, you must state your opinion very, very clearly. These are like your go-to starters. Like if you can't come up with je voudrais savoir, start with something. If you can't come up with that, but you can use some in some places things like je pense que, je trouve que, à mon avis, selon moi. Try to use them. Okay, use summarizing connectors like en résumé, en conclusion, pour finir, finalement. These are excellent for using to end your answers or your mini conversations or your mini responses. And the examiner, from his point of view or her point of view, these are considered to be well structured. Okay, if you're talking about why do you love to, let's say, stay in India or stay in Canada, and you're talking about, premièrement, XYZ is my reason. En fait, deuxièmement, je voudrais aussi ajouter quelque chose comme, and you're giving another example why you like it. Donc, finalement, c'est vrai que j'adore vivre ici. Now so this way you structured your answer very well. And that is what is very well rewarded in the examination. So even if you're asked a small question, A, elaborate on the answer. B, try to add these connectors of starting on sequencing. Try to give a contrasting opinion if possible from your end and try to conclude it. Try to give your personal opinion. This way your answer is more structured, longer and detailed. Now, let's look at the exam strategy, something that we're all aiming at, which is our TEF TCF oral examination, which is a speaking task, which is our production orale or expression orale as we call it. Try to start your dialogue with a connector, which is a starting connector like tout d'abord, ou premièrement, the list that we saw. Add opinion. À mon avis, ou personnellement, ou selon moi, je pense que, try to add these. These are bare minimals, guys. Develop your explanation by giving detailed responses parce que, en effet, add that information. Give a contrast, like cependant, pourtant, mais, give that contrast, and finally conclude it. This is the 5-step connector formula that you must use for any response that you need to give in a TEF examination. This makes your response complete. Okay. Once again, you start with the sequence connector, like tout d'abord, the premièrement, followed by your opinion, followed by an explanation of it, followed by giving a contrasting opinion if feasible, and finally giving a conclusion to it and using a connector such as en conclusion, finalement, à la fin. Make sure you're using this 5-step strategy. Now, let's deep dive into whatever you've discussed and how does it actually look like in the examination. Okay. So we'll take an example from the TCF production orale, in which the situation is vous louez un appartement, you're renting an apartment, posez des questions au propriétaire. Pose des questions, that means ask questions to the propriétaire. Very, very simple, very basic. Okay, the situation here is wherein you have to rent an apartment and you're asking some questions to the propriétaire, the owner. Okay, now I know that most of you right now are off camera and on mute. But before I go ahead, let me go ahead and ask everybody: is there anybody who would like to, any two people who would like to volunteer to do a role play and read what's on the screen between two people? If yes, just put up your names or a thumbs up on the chat so I know. If not, then I'll continue. But it'll be great if anybody wants to participate actually. Donc, y a-t-il quelqu'un qui veut participer? Anybody wants to do? Okay, superb, Neeraj. Perfect. So we have two people, Neeraj and Ayanti. Superb, lovely. I love it, guys. Thank you so much for being so prompt and responsive. Lovely. Okay, Neeraj, Ayanti, you guys are my superstars today. Let's start with you guys. All right. There you go. You guys can see my screen, I hope. Now, let's try. I want you guys, so let's say Ayanti, your name starts with A, so I'll go ahead and let you be A. And Neeraj, you can be B, who's the proprietor. You guys can please unmute yourselves, read the dialogue, stop after you end. So after every box, I want you to stop because I'd like to put in a piece of information for the students. Okay, let's go.
Bonjour, bonjour. Merci de recevoir. Tout d'abord, je voudrais savoir si l'appartement est encore disponible.
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 Superbe, ok. Je vais corriger la prononciation aussi, mais c'est ok. Superbe, ok. Neeraj, le propriétaire, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, bien sûr. Il est libre à partir du mois prochain.
Super. Alors, bonjour, merci de me recevoir tout d'abord. Now, the tout d'abord is a sequence connector that we use to start a conversation. Je voudrais savoir si l'appartement est encore disponible. As you guys already saw when we began, an A2 level, I would say, so I will just start with the question or dites-moi or something like that. But for an B1 or a B2 level conversation, I would start with something a little bit better. Est-ce que tu pourrais, vous pourriez me dire, m'indiquer, or je voudrais savoir si. Now, this is what you've learned today. So you use tout d'abord, je voudrais savoir, and then your question ahead. And very good, il est libre à partir du mois prochain. Ok, super, on continue.
Parfait. Ou bien, pourrez-vous me
dire
combien de chambres il y a exactement?
Exactement.
Exactement.
Nice, ok.
Il y en a deux, ainsi qu'un petit bureau.
Il y en a deux. Very nice. Good job. Continue.
D'accord.
Go
Okay.
ahead, sorry.
D'accord. Intéressant.
Intéressant. Very nice.
Intéressant. Et aussi, tout exactement.
Où
Exactement.
se trouve
Trop exactement l'appartement.
Very
Est-ce que,
nice.
est-ce que qui, est-ce que qu'il est proche du métro?
Est-ce qu'il est proche du métro?
Est-ce que qu'il est proche du métro?
Okay.
Oui, à 5 minutes à pied de la station.
Super. Okay. Now, very basic things that we added here. If you notice, there are terms like parfait, d'accord, that are added as a response reaction. Basically, when the proprietor said, yeah, there are two, and as well as we have a small bureau. Instead of just starting your next question, oh, where is the apartment? You're adding a filler, a reaction to it. So like, okay, d'accord, c'est intéressant. Okay, that's interesting. So whatever the answer was, you reacted to it. This builds a fluent conversation instead of question answer that goes back and forth and it sounds robotic. This makes it sound like a very natural conversation. Ah oui, d'accord, c'est super, hein? C'est intéressant. This is very natural conversation also. So you reacting to the responses of the examiner is a key feature. So things like d'accord, parfait, ah bien, okay. These are very, very natural expressions and reactions. So make sure you use them. Following which you could clearly see instead of saying où est l'appartement? Où est l'appartement? Very A2 level, A1 level. What have we done? The same question, bump it up. Et où se trouve exactement l'appartement? Where do we find exactly the apartment? This automatically is a higher level. Okay, où se trouve, then we've added an adverb exactement, exactly, l'appartement. Est-ce qu'il est proche du métro? And we've extended the question by asking, is it close to the metro? So it's a double question. It's longer, it's more precise. Perfect. All right, guys, let's continue.
Très bien. Voyons. Et où nous, du
Niveau.
quartier. Niveau
Okay.
du quartier.
Hmm.
Et est-ce qu'il y a
Very nice.
des commerces à
Commerce.
proximité?
Very nice.
Oui, vous
Trouverez.
trouverez un supermarché et plusieurs cafés dans la rue.
Okay.
Je vois. Et combien est le loyer par mois? Charge comprise.
Very nice. Hmm.
Le loyer est de
Yeah.
850
Cinq.
euros.
Very
Les,
nice.
les charges chauffe-eau sont incluses.
Chauffage.
Chauffage eau sont incluses.
Sont inclus.
Sont inclus.
Perfect. Now here also, guys, notice a similar pattern. We've used things like oui, très bien. We've used the fillers that we have. Voyons, je vois, oui, okay. These are all fillers. These are all reactions which are consistent throughout. Okay. All right. Very nice, guys. Superb. Continue. Let's finish this off.
C'est raisonnable. C'est
Very good.
raisonnable.
Raisonnable. Hmm.
Raisonnable. Cependant, pourrez-vous m'expliquer
Very
pourquoi
nice.
le dernier lo- locataire
Locataire.
locataire est
Parti.
okay.
Parti.
Parti.
Very nice. Okay, good job.
Simplement parce qu'il a eu une mutation professionnelle.
Very nice.
Très bien. Je comprends à quelle heure puis
Hmm.
je visitais l'appartement.
L'appartement. Oui. Let's continue.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Ce samedi vers 10 heures, si vous voulez.
Ok, super. And the response comes in parfait. Merci beaucoup pour toutes ces informations. Alors, en conclusion, je pense que cet appartement correspond bien à mes besoins. Now, what has happened? Again, we've used terms like c'est raisonnable. Cependant, to show contrast, pourriez-vous m'expliquer things we learned in the beginning of how to start the questions? Simplement, très bien, je comprends. Parfait. Ending connector en conclusion. By simply adding these to our regular and a simple dialogue is extremely useful to increase the level from an A2 to B1 or a B1 to B2. So I hope you guys can real example see this for a TCF production oral topic for section B, which was that you want to rent an apartment, you have to ask questions to the proprietor. You've ended up automatically bumping up your conversation to a higher level by incorporating these new terms to your already existing Q&A that you know. So tout d'abord, oui, bien sûr, parfait, bien, ok, d'accord, intéressant. Euh, Très bien. Alors, voyons. Je vois. OK, je vois. C'est raisonnable. Cependant, pourriez-vous m'expliquer? Ah, très bien, je comprends. Parfait, parfait. En conclusion, je pense que now, all the elements that you learned above, you have just thrown them into your dialogue, which you already could put together by using your knowledge of A1 and A2 level. Doing that will increase your level for sure. It makes you sound more responsive, more present because you're reacting to the conversation and whatever the examiner is saying. Also, you're adding connectors, so it makes your conversation very in sync to understand very well. It's structured, it's more structured, and at the same time, you're using fillers, so it's making you sound very, very natural. Shows how easy it is for you. You're at ease, you're comfortable. So there's less of you need time. You say use something like okay, oui, je vois. This is equivalent to you saying So let's make that a little bit of a smart move there, okay? All right. So you notice we've used all different types of questions like est-ce, inversion, conditionnel, pourquoi, combien. We've used all of these. So that means we have shown the examiner the variety of questions that I know how to put together. Okay. I've also used connectors like tout d'abord, eh bien, cependant, en conclusion to demonstrate that I can do that too. So you're basically giving the examiner a checklist. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, hey, I've done this. So you're making scoring easier for yourself and for the examiner. Okay. Let's now look at it from a perspective of a TEF related question. Okay. So TEF related questions is section A examination in which you're supposed to see an advertisement and then you're given an instruction that you've read this advertisement or this annonce or this publicité and you have to give a call to, could be the secretary, could be the receptionist, could be the agency, could be anybody of that particular advertisement to ask more questions about it, to get more information. So the situation given over here is vous téléphonez à une école de langue. So you give a call at a language school pour demander des informations sur les cours de français. So your objective is that you have seen an advertisement about language school and you're basically giving a call to this language school to ask more information, to get more information. Okay. Alors, is there anybody who wants to volunteer now, as other than the two people who've already participated, to read? Okay, Samira, super. Anybody else who also wants to help out Samira and play the next role? Arpita, super. Okay. All right, Pakneet, I'm going to bring you in as well. Okay, perfect. That's okay. So Samira and Arpita, you guys are going first for me. We're going to do a couple of conversations with you, like half the dialogue, and the rest of the dialogue we'll give it to Pakneet and Amitava to do it. Okay? Let's have as many people participating. So Samira and Arpita, can you please unmute yourselves, please? Lovely. Okay. So Samira, you can play the role of l'étudiant, the student, which is A, and the other person can play the role of secrétaire. Or commence. Come on.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Sophia. Je voudrais savoir si vous proposez actuellement des cours de français pour adultes.
Bonjour Sophia. Oui, bien sûr. Nous avons plusieurs sessions en ce moment.
En ce moment.
En ce moment.
Très bien. D'abord, pourriez-vous me dire quand prochains,
Commence.
commencent les,
Commence.
commencent les prochains cours?
La prochaine session débute le 15 septembre.
Very nice.
Ah, d'accord. Et combien de semaines dure cette session?
Elle dure environ 3 mois.
Super. Okay. So what has happened, guys? We're doing the same conversation about asking, do you propose this course for adults and how many sessions are there right now? When do you start the course? These questions are very simple to ask. What have we done? We've simply added the elements that we've learned about today. So things like, je voudrais savoir si, and then adding, proposer actuellement des cours de français pour adultes. Then adding reactions and reactions and fillers. Oui, okay, très bien. Followed by adding a connector of sequence d'abord, followed by a different way of asking a B1 or B2 level question with conditional. So, pourriez-vous me dire quand? Instead of simply saying quand commence les prochains cours, we're saying pourriez-vous me dire, bumping up the level. Followed by which we've again used a reaction to respond to what the person said in front of you that, yeah, it's going to start on 15th September. So we've reacted to it by saying, ah, d'accord, et combien, and so on and so forth. So do we see the additions of the elements that we've done to a simple dialogue to make it a higher level? Yeah. All right. Let's continue. One second. All right. Let's continue this one as well, and then I'll give we'll pass it on to the next two students. Okay. Guys, continue.
Je vois à quelle fréquence sont les cours. Est-ce
Fréquence.
fréquence sont les cours? Est-ce qu'ils ont lieu tous les jours?
Non, 3 fois par semaine le soir.
Parfait. Voyons, pourriez-vous aussi m'expliquer combien coûte la formation complète?
Bien sûr,
Complète.
Complète?
bien sûr. Le prix est de 450 euros, matériel compris.
Merci. Cependant, est-ce qu'il est possible de payer plusieurs fois?
Oui, nous acceptons les paiements mensuels.
Very nice. Superb, guys. Now, again, same thing. We've added elements of expressions and fillers such as je vois, okay, voyons. We've also added things like parfait as reactions. We've also modified the way of simply asking combien coûte la formation. We've added another sentence starter to it by saying pourriez-vous aussi m'expliquer? And then starting our question to make it sound better. We've also added a connector for showing contrast. Cependant, which shows as a variation of connector that we've used. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Let's next move on to the next two people who volunteered to do the last part. You guys are great, guys. Thank you so much. Wonderful participation. Thank you. All right. So the next two people, I would like for who is it? Okay. Arpita and Pakneet, right? So Arpita, can you play role A and then role B, the next person?
Oh, I thought I'll be the next person, Amitabh.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry. I think Arpita just said yes.
Okay, so can I continue with the A?
Yes, absolutely. Please go ahead. Voila. Okay.
Très bien. C'est rassurant,
Rassurant.
rassurant.
Super.
E a quel niveau de langue lecture commencée?
Nous avons des cours de nouveau A12 jusqu'au B12. Quel est votre niveau actuel?
Okay, so A2 jusqu'au B2. So A and 2.
A2 jusqu'au
Hmm.
B2.
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 Very nice. Okay.
Eh bien. Je dirais B1.
B1.
B1. Est-ce que vous pourrez me
Conseiller.
conseiller le groupe qui me conviendrait
Very
le
nice.
mieux?
Conviendrait le mieux. Okay.
Donc, c'est ça, je vous recommande le groupe B1 du
Plus
soir.
du soir. So dans ce cas. So dans ce cas, which means in this case, when you say it in French, say it together. Dans ce cas.
Dans ce cas,
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Je vous recommande le groupe B1 plus. Very nice. Okay.
Excellent. Une dernière question.
Question.
Question. Est-ce que les professeurs sont natifs?
Oui, tous nos anciens sont francophones natifs.
Parfait.
Tous nos enseignants. Parfait.
Parfait. Merci beaucoup. En conclusion,
Conclusion.
en conclusion, je pense que cette école correspond bien à mes attentes. Je vais m'inscrire.
Je vais m'inscrire.
Je vais m'inscrire.
Super. Merci. Alors, everyone, do you guys notice the conversation between these two students? We had reactions. Très bien, c'est rassurant. Ah, bien. Excellent. Parfait. Now, I know this sounds like a very unrealistic conversation. Who talks like that? But believe me, that's the kind of conversation you need to have in your examination hall with the examiner. React, respond. Use things like est-ce que vous pourriez me conseiller? Instead of just saying quel groupe me conviendrait? Instead of saying est-ce que les professeurs sont natifs? Start with something like une dernière question maintenant. Est-ce que les professeurs sont natifs? So you use a connector there, a closing connector. You've also used like, alors, en conclusion, je pense que to say that you're finishing the conversation here. That's your conclusion. These elements, such as variation of question words, quand, combien, à quel niveau, shows your ability to frame different kinds of questions. The ability to start your questions differently. Je voudrais savoir que pourriez-vous, est-ce que une dernière question shows your ability to initiate questions in a different manner. Fillers and connectors show your sequence and your fluency. This added to your existing skill set will impact greatly and positively your speaking. Okay, these are some questions that are very, very common in TCF and TEF examinations, which if you look at, for example, the first one says, je suis votre ami, I'm your friend. Je prends des cours de théâtre toutes les semaines, okay? I take the theater course toutes les semaines, like all the week, okay? And you want to register yourself to this course. You're going to ask me questions to get more information about the tariff, the time, the hours, about the organization, or whatever else. So think about it. When you're imagining this conversation wherein you are going to ask your friend questions, everybody tell me on the chat, will it be a formal conversation or an informal conversation? Write formal or informal on the chat for me. Everybody. Formal or informal? Informal, okay. So, Nihal, Srinu, Smita, Arpita, c'est informel. Oui, c'est informel. C'est informel, absolument. Because this conversation is with a friend, which means now you know in the beginning of the conversation that your mood is going to be in informal context. It's going to be with a friend. You're going to use tu, toi, informal terms, no vous, no votre. Okay, you'll try to keep this conversation fluent. Think of the questions that you want to ask, start asking them, start reacting to the answer of the examiner. You got to put in connectors, and that's how your structure gets built. Always important for this to happen, I would recommend everybody to please make sure that you have a list of connectors, fillers, reactions pre-memorized, and start incorporating it right now in your dialogues and role plays. You'll need it so much in your TEF and TCF examinations, and it's going to be so much easier for you to pull it off that time if you get into this habit right now. All right, Amitava, we cannot use vous friends because generally, until your friends, like pluriel, until unless it's pluriel, we use tu. Tu is an informal context of me talking to a friend because it's very familiar. If you're talking to your friends that are plural, then you use vous. Otherwise, vous would be used for you talking to somebody you're giving respect to, somebody older, somebody senior, somebody unknown. All right. So a conversation in terms of cultural aspect would be in the tu form, and we never go back and forth. You're using tu form, you stick to tu form in that conversation. That's very important. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Superb. All right. I hope that you guys all understood what I was trying to convey today. My whole aim was to tell you guys, I know you guys know how to frame questions. And I know possibly by the end of your B1 and B2, you'll be able to have a normal role play and a dialogue conversation. But what will set it apart and what will get you higher scores is the usage of these elements. And the sooner you start, the better it gets and more easier it gets for you. All right, let's answer some questions. Can we use combination of A1 to B1 to B2 questions, or will that hurt the score? Now, Smita, if you notice, you're anyway asking inversion questions and Est-ce questions, which are what? A1, A2 questions. My recommendation is okay, use them because there's simplicity at best, but add some sentence starters like je voudrais savoir, or pourriez-vous m'expliquer, and then put in your simple question, so that it's a combination of both which is in your favor. Okay. Samika, if it's informal conversation, can we use formal connectors? Absolutely. That's okay. Like if your friend says, yeah, the course is going to be difficult, but you know, if you practice, it's going to be fine. And you say, oui, c'est vrai, je comprends. That's okay. That's perfect. It's a natural reaction as long as you're reacting. That's okay. Any more questions? Please bring them. Anybody has more questions with respect to the examination or the speaking element or the interrogation? Please, guys, let me know. Is there anything I can answer? Okay, cool. Everyone. Now, everybody, before everybody sign off, I want everybody to just tell me in the chat, just one word. Everybody just put in one word to tell me whether or not the session was helpful. Okay, I just want you to tell me if you did like it, you didn't like it, was it informative, did you walk out with something important, have you learned something today? Just tell me on the chat. So Shama says yes. Amitava, yes, document sharing will happen. We can make that happen. Plus, it's going to be available on YouTube for sure. Says very helpful, informative, super. Okay, thank you. Extremely helpful. C'est utile. Merci. Superb, guys. I love that. And I hope that those people who in the beginning said that they were very tired or they were bored, I hope that this 1 hour really kicked in your energy and you guys had fun doing this as much as I had today. Thank you, Rose, especially the starters before the question. This document will be a game changer. Bon séance. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm so happy you guys enjoyed this session. And if you have any more suggestions with respect to what you want the sessions to be conducted around, I'm more than happy to look into it. Please leave them on the chat or on YouTube. I will make sure that I have a look at it too. And I hopefully will see you in the next week or maybe the week after that with another session that can possibly help you score a little bit better and improve. Okay. So thank you so much for being a very participative audience. Merci beaucoup pour votre participation aujourd'hui. Alors, thank you, guys. Thank you. Of course, thank you, Parni, Nicolas, super. Thank you. I'll see you guys next time, yeah? Au revoir et bonne chance à vous. Au revoir.